Good morning. There's a story I reread this week, a story from several years ago. It followed a severe earthquake in China that devastated much of a region, its cities and towns. And it speaks of the time just after the earthquake when things have settled back down and search parties and rescue teams were sent out to look for people who were buried alive. And one such team walked up to a house that was pretty ruined, devastated. There were large cracks in the walls, and through one of these cracks they could see a person that looked like they were kneeling down but with their hands resting on something and their head in their hands, almost like they were worshipping or praying. And so they walked up, and the leader stuck his arm through the crack in the wall, reaching out, hoping to find signs of a person alive. But as soon as he touched the body, cold and stiff, he knew she'd already died. He took his hand out and the team moved on to the next house. But as they were travelling, the leader had this peculiar driving sensation to go back. And so he did. He went back and he put his hand back through the wall again and underneath the woman and reached around. And suddenly he felt something that was soft and warm. And he realised this was a child, a baby. And he cried out, there's a baby, there's a child alive. And the rescuers came in and carefully moved the debris from around this woman whose body had absorbed all the impact and was beaten and bruised, and she died, saving her child. And they took the child and bundled in a blanket out and passed it to the medical person, the doctor who would examine the child. And as he unrolled the blanket, out fell a mobile phone with a text message on it that said, "If you can survive this, remember always that I love you." And as the phone was handed around the rescue team, there were tears of sadness and joy mixed as they read the message and realised what had happened. I don't know what it was like for that mum. The desperation of the situation, the earthquake happening and things falling around her, the desperate act to save a child. In that moment, the connection between her, the union of her and a child was so deep and rich. All she could think about was saving her child, even if that meant sacrificing her own life, which she did. That's not a unique story, I guess. There are many stories of parents, particularly mothers, giving their all to save, to rescue their child, often to give their life. There's also beautiful stories of people who give themselves and all they can for the sake of another, a stranger, to save them in the water, in beaches and rivers and fires and floods and all sorts of places. And it's this sense of connectedness, of forgetting self, of letting go of self in order to embrace another. A feel of forgetting self in order to provide salvation or help or rescuing of another, that is deeply profound and is in some sense the essence of what John is trying to say in his story of Jesus. John's story of Jesus portrays him as the one who represents and presents this face, this reality of God in the world. Not in a way of knowing more and more, but of experiencing. And that this reality, this presence, this experience of God is grounded in love, grounded in reaching out and embracing into his life, into his world, into his being, all people and all things. John speaks of the connectedness of all things. In the passage we read this week is a beautiful prayer in John 17. The last words and action of Jesus with his followers, with his disciples, before he's arrested and then tried and killed. It's a prayer that that speaks of the deep unity between He and God. He uses the traditional language that doesn't always work in our times, but He uses Father. Father, I am in you, you are in me. I am one with you. And these whom you've given me in the world are in me and are in you, and you are in them. And it's this cyclic language of I'm in you and you're in me and we are one. And the prayer goes on to pray for these disciples who will be left in the world when Jesus leaves it through death and resurrection and rising into this new realm of God. And they will be left in the world to carry on the message, to carry on the life. And he prays that they will remain safe. Not safe from the temptations or the challenges or the struggles or the suffering of life, any more than he was. But they will remain connected into God, into this flow of love and life and hope. This flow of life that comes from the heart of all things. This heart of God, which is mystery and love and life and joy and hope. Beyond our comprehension, but it's real and it's there. And he prays for those who will follow on in time to come, that they will know this flow of love and life, and that the love of God will flow through them and into the world. And that they will not be changed by the world around, the world that worships power and wealth and might and uses violence to get its way. But rather they will live into this way of love. And where people build barriers and divisions and create obstacles out of fear, out of the desire to be better, to put themselves above others, to reject or exclude others, they had to knock these barriers and boards and walls down and create bridges of connection, because that's how the world is. We're all connected. And it's a beautiful story, a beautiful prayer that invites us to think into this way of God, this world in which we live and the interconnectedness of all things. Our dogs, for example, our young 4 or 5 month old little bordoodle Nessa is so connected and bonded, as is Nico, our 7-year-old short-haired border collie cross cattle dog, who connects and is connected and bonded with us. These are the stories of pets and animals who connect with humans and with each other. But it's more than that. In my body, in my gut, are trillions of microorganisms on which I depend. For most of the time, I'm oblivious to them. I don't know how they work or what they do, but they're there and I need them. In the world around us, microorganisms and other organisms that break down material, plant material and other material, and create earth and humus and the foundations for new life. Or water, the molecules of water that we drink that keep us alive. Where have those molecules been? What rivers and streams and lakes and oceans have they flowed through? What polar caps have they been caught up in as ice? What clouds have they floated in and over what nations? And through what other bodies and organisms and animals have they flowed? And the hydrogen and oxygen in those molecules, what else have they been? What other molecules have they been part of? It's the interconnectedness of all of life and our dependence on the world, on the earth itself, on the trees that take in carbon dioxide and fix it into plant material and fruit and produce oxygen that we need to breathe. And yet we chop the trees down. The lungs of the earth that we depend on. All of us are so interdependent, interconnected. Barbara Brown Taylor talks about a luminous web that holds everything in beautiful mystery, that connects everything and holds it. And she speaks of this luminous web of God. The mystery of God that holds everything. And the profound force that is at the heart of it, which we call love. When I do a communion service, Holy Communion service in a church, part of the prayer I say talks about the ingredients in a bread, the diversity of elements. There's flour, there's water, there's yeast, there's other things that come together in bread. You can't make bread out of just flour or just water or just yeast. But when these things come together, they bring their own unique aspects, gifts, strengths. And when it comes together, it creates this new thing that is beautiful. And I think this is what Jesus is inviting us into, that we are called to be one. Not the same, not identical, we can't be, but to bring our diversity and our differences into a unity of mind and heart and being, held together in grace and love which comes beyond us from this God whom we know as Trinity, Creator, Christ and Spirit, three entities who are held together in our unity, a unity of love, a relational community of love, where each pours out love to the other and receives it back, and there's this flow of love, this divine dance of love and loving. And that's what we're invited into. And that's the life we're called to live. And Jesus prays that we will know this union with God and with each other, that we will know this life force flowing through us. He's already used an image of vines and branches, that the vine has the life force flowing through it, and the branches that come off it, if they're strong and connected into that vine, they will receive the flow of life force that enables them to live and produce fruit. And that's what we're invited to do, to trust in this God, to trust and grow into this love, and to bear fruit in the world. And the fruit we bear is love, is kindness, is compassion, is justice, is inclusive community in which people can belong and bring the best that they are and receive the best of others. Where all of our differences and all of our uniqueness comes together in one beautiful way to produce a community that is better than all of us combined individually. The sum of all of us is better. This is a community that we're called to be in the world. And to name the sacred and the wondrous and the loving in our midst, like that woman who sacrificed her life for a child. That's the kind of image and the kind of thing that Jesus invites us into. That self-giving love that he himself offered. He himself in John's Gospel offers himself up on the cross to reveal this alternative way, this new way of God, a way that will transcend death and will transcend violence and the powers and principalities of the world. The only thing they know that they can't cope with is love and his kindness, so they'll kill him. But death can't hold him because love can't be bound. And he is drawn into this new reality of resurrection, we call it. Life beyond life. Life of the ages. This is what Jesus prays for us. That we will be one as he and God are one. And that we will find the way of love, the way of hope, the way of true life. Will you follow in this way?